Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name's Sophie and today I'm going to be discussing my journey so far with being diagnosed with psychosis whilst experiencing autism at the same time. I haven't posted on this channel in a long time. The main reason being is I've had to come to terms with my new mental health diagnosis, and for a long time I've been struggling with it and not knowing what was wrong with me, so that was very difficult to come to terms with. And also I haven't been in the right place mentally to sit down and make these videos, and that's my honest reason for not posting for so long. So let's start from the very beginning, where I first started getting symptoms. Back in November 2016, I lost a very close family friend who was also my karate instructor, and he was like a second dad to me. We spent years and years traveling around the country together, competing in competitions, and he was just my world, and I loved that man so much, and it absolutely devastated me. When he left us, everything in my life changed. I was so lost. I felt so lost, and I was just devastated, and I no longer had that stability and safe place to go to anymore. Soon after his funeral, my relationship with my boyfriend at the time, who I had been with for 6 years, started to break down, and my mental health got significantly worse. I started hearing voices that were not my own, and they took the form of a man, a very deep voice, who was really frightening, and a woman who was known as Susan, and a little girl who was most of the time frightened, who was known as Lily. I found this very frightening, and the man never revealed his voice and still doesn't reveal his name or identity to me. They like to give me commands, like to self-harm, or they'd tell me to go for walks in the middle of the night and tell me to do things that I didn't want to do. I reached a point where I was too frightened to go out the house, and I would hide in my cupboard away from these external entities that I believed was real. And I eventually lost touch with the outside world. I was completely separated in my own world. I was experiencing hallucinations, both the auditory ones and visual ones. I would see snakes and spiders crawling up the walls and over my arms, and I'd feel like really scratchy because I feel like there was insects crawling up my arm. And when I walked, the floor would turn to water. And also I would see yellow figures of people in the doorways, which was really frightening. And I didn't go out my house very much because I was sat in the cupboard or on the sofa under a blanket, hiding away from all of this that was happening to me, and I couldn't understand why it was happening to me. My parents and doctor started getting very concerned, and before I knew it, I was seen by the mental health team 3 times a day in my own home, and eventually they said I was too unsafe to live there on my own, and I had to be admitted into hospital. I can talk about my experience here in a different video if people are interested, but I'm not going to go into that bit right now. So 2 weeks later, I left the mental health hospital with a diagnosis of emotionally unstable personality disorder, which apparently you can get psychotic symptoms with. And I was left with new medication. And one of these was I was given a Dipixel injection every month, which was an antipsychotic injection. They found it very hard to distinguish my psychotic symptoms from autism. Like with the crawling up my arms, people with autism experience things on a sensory level, so a different environment could make my skin crawl like it's crawling with insects. So they found it very hard to distinguish one symptom from the other, or label that symptom is Asperger's and that symptom is psychosis. So there was quite an overlap between the two of them, which made me very difficult to diagnose. After my hospitalisation, when I came out of hospital, I experienced a breakup with my partner at the time. Part of me believed he couldn't handle my mental illness, another part of me believed we fell out of love and we grew apart from each other because we both wanted different things from life and had different goals, which is fine, it happens, but I found this very hard to come to terms with. And it was like I'd lost two important male figures in my life in such a short space of time, which really contributed to the state of my mental health. Anyways, I left the hospital with a new medication. One of these medications was an antipsychotic injection called Dipixel, and this had to be injected into me every month to reduce my psychotic symptoms. 3 days after having the injection, this built up in my system over time as it releases it slowly, so it builds up over so many days and throughout the month, so it lasts the whole month. But after 3 days I started to get side effects, and one of these side effects was my face muscles tightened, and so much that I was in excruciating pain, and one side of my face drooped like I was having a stroke. So I went to the doctors and they sent me straight to A&E, and my friend took me up there, luckily just in time, because when I was in the A&E patient waiting area, my eyes started to roll back into my head and I started to have a seizure from the Dipixel injection. And eventually they got the antidote injected into me, and I had to take the antidote in tablet form for a month to counteract the Dipixel releasing throughout the month. And I had to have, throughout that month, I had to have one more A&E trip where the antidote was injected into me again because it was that strong. So during the next year, I had a mental health caseworker who came to see me every week, and I was seen by the mental health youth team, including a psychiatrist who believed I had symptoms of schizophrenia at the time. So I was assessed by the early intervention team who specialised in psychosis, and eventually my psychiatrist diagnosed me with PTSD, and the PTSD arisen from the bullying as a child I experienced at school, and also my psychotic symptoms. I was diagnosed with Psychosis NOS, which means not otherwise specified. So I have the symptoms, but they don't know what is causing the symptoms. It's not necessarily schizophrenia or borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder. It's not otherwise specified, so they don't know what condition it is. I just experience the symptoms. I was hospitalised once more during my master's degree, as my psychotic symptoms is triggered by a lot of stress, and I had the stress from my exams, and I was eventually hospitalised again. This time, however, they put me on the correct medication that stabilised me. So I was put on olanzapine, which is an antipsychotic, and I take that every night. And then I was also put on pyrazine, which I take 2-3 times a day to manage my symptoms during the day. And I also have diazepam, which I take to manage my anxiety attacks, which mainly come from experienced auditory hallucinations. I get very scared and frightened and start to have a panic attack. This medication stabilised me enough so I could finish my master's and also commit to a job for 4 months, which was full-time as a research assistant. And then I applied for a PhD and was successful in that, and now I started a PhD in January 2019, so this year. In this time as well, I met my current partner, which was in September 2018, and we're still going strong, and he's amazing and so supportive of my mental health conditions. He's just amazing. So now I feel I can make these videos because I'm in such a stable environment around me. I have the support from his family and my family, and my PhD is going great, and I finally feel in a place to share my story. It's been a long and difficult road, but with therapy, I'm having CBT at the moment, and my medication, I'm slowly learning to manage my condition. If anybody has any questions or things they're concerned about regarding this mental health condition, psychosis, feel free to drop it in the comments and I'll reply as well as I can. So I just wanted to say thank you all for listening, and I'll see you all next video. Bye!